Welcome to KJR SummaryCast, audio summaries of peer-reviewed articles published in the Korean Journal of Radiology. Designed to enhance reader convenience and the overall KJR experience, SummaryCast provides conversational audio overviews for time-constrained listeners and mobile-friendly learning. This recording was created using a combination of AI tools with oversight from the KJR editorial team or the article's authors, including necessary edits and corrections. For the most accurate and complete information, we encourage you to also read the original published article.
Welcome to SummaryCast.
Today we're looking at a paper that tackles a big question in breast screening: how to get the benefits of supplemental ultrasound without drowning in workload.
This one is titled Comparison of Digital Mammography plus Full ABUS Review and Digital Mammography plus Selective ABUS Review Guided by Artificial Intelligence Computer-Aided Diagnosis for Breast Cancer Screening.
It's from the Korean Journal of Radiology, published in the February issue of 2026.
Okay, let's set the stage. For women with dense breasts, mammography alone can miss things. Its sensitivity is limited in that context.
Right, so adding ultrasound, specifically automated breast ultrasound, or ABUS, has become a common supplemental screening tool. The goal is to find more cancers.
And it does. But there's a pretty significant trade-off. An ABUS exam produces hundreds of images per patient, which means a lot more interpretation time.
And it drives up the recall rate. More findings mean more callbacks, more follow-up imaging, more biopsies, many of which turn out to be benign. So it's more work and more patient anxiety for a small gain in cancer detection.
It's a classic efficiency versus sensitivity problem. This study asks a very direct question: can an AI help rebalance that equation?
How so?
Well, the core idea here is deceptively simple. Instead of having a radiologist review every single ABUS exam, what if an AI did a first pass?
A triage model.
Precisely. The workflow they propose is this: a radiologist reads the digital mammogram as usual. Meanwhile, the ABUS scan is analyzed by an AI.
And the radiologist only looks at the ABUS images if... What are the triggers for review?
There are two. The radiologist is prompted to do a full ABUS review only if the mammogram was already flagged as positive or if the AI flags a suspicious finding on the ABUS.
So if the mammo is negative and the AI gives the ABUS a clean bill of health, the case is considered complete. No human ever looks at those hundreds of ABUS images.
That's the simulated strategy, and the study's main goal was to compare this AI triaged approach to the conventional one where radiologists read everything.
How did they test this? This wasn't a live, prospective trial, was it?
No, it was a retrospective study, which is an important detail. They took data from over 2,000, specifically 2,275, asymptomatic women who had already undergone screening with both digital mammography and ABUS between 2022 and 2023.
So they had the real-world findings and outcomes to use as a ground truth.
They did. That formed their baseline, what they call the DM plus ABUS radiologist group. They just used the results from the original clinical reports.
And for the AI-guided group?
That part was a simulation. They took all 2,275 ABUS exams and retrospectively ran them through a commercial AI CAD system. Then they applied their selective review rules to see which cases would have been reviewed and what the outcomes would have been.
Got it. What were the key performance metrics they were comparing between the two workflows?
The big ones: cancer detection rate, or CDR, sensitivity, specificity, and maybe most importantly for the workload question, the abnormal interpretation rate, or AIR, which is essentially the recall rate.
Okay, let's get to the numbers. Out of those 2,275 women, how many cancers were there to find?
12. A small number, which is a key limitation we'll come back to, but it's the reality of a screening population.
12 cancers. Let's start with the baseline, the standard all-human review. How did it perform?
The standard method found 10 of the 12 cancers. That gives it a sensitivity of 83.3%.
And the recall rate, the AIR?
It was 16.7%. That number is really the crux of the problem they're trying to solve. Almost 1 in 6 women getting called back for further evaluation.
And the specificity?
It was 83.7%. So that's our benchmark.
Okay, so how did the AI-guided selective review stack up against that?
This is where the results get pretty compelling. First, let's talk about the workload. In the simulation, the AI-guided model triaged 84% of all cases as negative, meaning they would not have required a radiologist to review the ABUS.
84%. So the ABUS reading workload could theoretically be cut down to just 16% of the original volume. That's a non-trivial reduction.
It's a huge potential time saver. And that efficiency gain showed up in the recall rate, the AIR. It dropped from 16.7% all the way down to 7.3%.
More than halved. And what did that do for specificity?
Specificity improved significantly, jumping from 83.7% up to 93.1%. All these improvements were statistically significant.
Okay, so the efficiency argument is strong. It's a much leaner workflow with fewer false positives. But here's the most important question. Did this efficiency come at the cost of missing more cancers? What happened to sensitivity?
This is the surprising part. You'd expect a trade-off, but in this study, sensitivity actually went up. It rose from 83.3% in the standard arm to 91.7% in the AI-guided arm.
Up? How is that possible?
Well, the AI-guided workflow detected 11 of the 12 cancers, which is one more than the human-only workflow found. The key is that the cancer missed by the AI system and the cancers missed by the human readers weren't all the same.
So the AI caught 2 that the humans missed, but it also missed 1 that the humans caught. It's not a simple superset.
Exactly. Net-net, the AI-guided system found 1 more cancer overall in this dataset.
Hold on. So the AI triage system is not just more efficient, it's also more sensitive? That sounds almost too good to be true. Let's drill down on the misses, because that's where the risk is.
Right. This is the critical detail. Let's look at the 1 cancer the AI-guided workflow missed. It was a 1.8 centimeter mucinous carcinoma. In the standard workflow, a radiologist did see this on the ABUS and recommended a callback.
Okay.
But in the simulation, the mammogram for this case was negative, and the AI did not flag the lesion on the ABUS. So, under the triage rules, this case would have been screened out and sent to routine follow-up.
That's a red flag. It missed a clinically relevant cancer that a human successfully detected. That's the failure mode you worry about.
It is. It underscores that the AI is not infallible and can have blind spots. But then you have to look at the other side of the ledger. The paper notes that there were 2 cancers, an invasive ductal carcinoma and an invasive lobular carcinoma, that the original radiologists missed, but the AI did flag.
So in those instances, the AI functioned as a safety net, catching human misses.
That's right. The takeaway isn't that one is definitively better, but that they have different strengths and weaknesses. It's a trade-off of which cancer you might miss, not just if.
That's a key distinction. What about the performance of the AI on its own?
That's another important point. The standalone ABUS AI was not that impressive. When they looked at its performance in isolation, its sensitivity was only 58.3%. It found just 7 of the 12 cancers.
So the power isn't in replacing the radiologist with the AI for ABUS. It's in the specific combined workflow, using the human read of the mammogram plus the AI read of the ABUS as a dual trigger system for a full review.
Precisely. It's a human-AI collaboration. The AI's role here is to act as a filter to reduce the high volume of low-yield work, letting the human expert focus on the cases flagged by either the mammogram or the AI.
Okay, so zooming out, what's the broader interpretation here?
The authors argue the simulated workflow points to a way to make supplemental ABUS screening much more practical and scalable.
You get the primary benefit, finding those mammographically occult cancers, while dramatically cutting the costs, both in terms of radiologist time and in unnecessary patient recalls and anxiety.
Right. The paper cites previous work showing that adding ABUS can double the cancer detection rate, but often at the cost of doubling the recall rate. In this model, they maintained the cancer detection rate while cutting the recall rate in half.
That's a much more palatable trade-off. But we have to discuss the limitations here. They feel pretty significant.
Absolutely. First and foremost, as we said, this is a retrospective simulation. It's not the same as a prospective randomized trial, where you see how this actually performs in a live clinical environment.
Things like radiologist confidence in the AI, alert fatigue, workflow integration, none of those real-world factors are measured here.
Exactly. Second, the number of cancers is very small, n equals 12. When your denominator is 12, a single missed cancer on either side dramatically swings the sensitivity percentage.
Right. You can't draw broad conclusions about the safety and reliability of a system from such a small sample of positive cases.
A third limitation is that they only used one commercial AI algorithm. We have no idea if another AI would perform better or worse, or perhaps miss different types of cancers.
And finally, the study population. It was composed of Asian women from 2 centers in Korea, a population that generally has a higher prevalence of dense breast tissue, so the generalizability to other, more diverse populations isn't guaranteed.
All fair points. The authors acknowledge these as well.
So let's land this. What's the bottom line takeaway?
I think it's best viewed as a compelling proof of concept for a more intelligent workflow. The raw idea of using AI as a high-volume filter to triage negative screening studies makes a lot of intuitive sense.
The potential to reduce the ABUS reading workload by 84% is a headline number that will get anyone's attention.
It will. It suggests a pathway where the benefits of supplemental screening could be expanded without completely overwhelming radiology departments.
But that missed mucinous carcinoma is a serious cautionary tale. It's a reminder that this technology has failure modes. It shows that even with this kind of workflow, expert human oversight remains absolutely critical. This isn't about full automation, it's about augmentation.
That's a well-put distinction. The study definitely does not suggest that standalone AI for ABUS screening is ready for prime time. But as an interactive tool or a triage assistant guided by a clear human-in-the-loop process, the evidence here is certainly promising.
The next logical step would have to be a large-scale prospective trial, one that could validate if these numbers hold up in a real clinical setting, and, crucially, help us better understand the specific characteristics of the cancers that this kind of hybrid system might miss.
Agreed. It's a clever piece of workflow engineering applied to a real-world bottleneck, but it's still early days for implementation.
Right, a promising concept that needs more validation before it's ready.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of SummaryCast.
Thanks for tuning in.